Most people think it takes charm, money, or looks to be admired. But truth is, it only takes four simple words, words that shift how people see you, how they respond to you, and how they remember you. These words don't manipulate, they connect. They build trust, respect, and attraction in a way most people overlook. And once you understand how to use them, you'll realize admiration isn't something you chase, it's something you create. The reason most people struggle to be admired is because they're busy trying to impress. We live in a world where everyone's trying to stand out: louder clothes, bigger achievements, bolder words. But here's the truth most people never realize: the harder you try to make people admire you, the less they actually do. Because admiration isn't something you demand, it's something you inspire. It doesn't come from showing off, it comes from showing up fully, calmly, and with genuine interest. And that's what those four simple words, "tell me about you," do. When you say those words, something powerful happens. You flip the focus. Instead of trying to convince someone how great you are, you invite them to share who they are. And that's the moment everything changes. Because in a world where everyone's waiting for their turn to talk, someone who actually listens stands out more than the loudest person in the room. Think about it. The people who made the biggest impression on you weren't the ones who talked endlessly about themselves. They were the ones who looked you in the eyes, leaned in, and made you feel like what you said actually mattered. They didn't interrupt. They didn't correct you. They listened. They asked questions. They cared. And in that moment, you felt valued. You felt respected. You felt seen. That's the quiet power of "tell me about you." Those four words don't just open a conversation, they open connection. They tell the other person, you matter, your story matters, your thoughts matter, and when someone feels that from you, they naturally begin to admire you. Not because you're perfect, not because you're impressive, but because you made them feel significant. See, admiration isn't about dominance, it's about presence. People don't admire the loudest voice in the room, they admire the one who listens, who makes others feel important. Because when you show genuine curiosity, you send a silent message: I respect you. And respect always leads to admiration. But here's where most people go wrong. They use these words as a trick, not a truth. They say, "tell me about you," just to look polite, while their mind is already preparing the next thing they want to say. That's not connection, that's performance. And people can feel the difference. To make those words real, you have to mean them. You have to listen with intention, not interruption. Don't listen to reply, listen to understand. Ask follow-up questions. Mirror their emotions. When they talk about something that excites them, match that energy. When they talk about something that hurt them, lower your tone, soften your eyes, and be present. This is emotional intelligence in action, not fancy vocabulary or surface-level compliments. And here's the beautiful paradox. When you stop trying to be interesting and start being interested, you automatically become interesting. Because people remember how you made them feel. They remember that moment of safety and understanding. They think, there's something different about this person. That difference is empathy, and empathy is magnetic. Now you might be thinking, so all I need to do is say, "tell me about you." Not exactly. The words open the door, but your sincerity is what makes people walk through it. The tone matters. Your body language matters. Your timing matters. If you say it while looking at your phone or scanning the room, it loses its power. But if you say it with your full attention, eye contact, relaxed posture, calm tone, it hits differently. It tells the person across from you, right now you have my full presence. Presence is rare. That's why it's powerful. In a generation constantly distracted by screens, by stress, by self-image, being fully there is one of the most attractive qualities you can have. Let's take a real-world example. Imagine two conversations. In the first, someone says, "Hey, how are you?" You answer, and they nod absent-mindedly, scrolling through their phone, half listening. In the second, someone says the same thing, "Hey, how are you?" But they pause, they look up, they actually wait for your answer. They ask, "What's been going on lately?" And then they listen. No phone, no rush, just presence. Who would you admire more? Exactly, it's not about words, it's about attention. And attention is one of the purest forms of respect. When you give someone your attention, you're telling them, "you matter enough for me to stop everything else." That kind of respect doesn't go unnoticed. It creates emotional gravity, a quiet pull that makes people want to be around you, talk to you, and trust you. Another thing, when you listen deeply, you learn deeply. You start to understand what drives people, what scares them, what motivates them. That knowledge gives you wisdom. And wisdom, not just intelligence, is what makes someone admirable. Because wisdom doesn't talk to impress, it talks to elevate. And that's what happens when you practice these four words in your life. You start to see the world differently. You stop competing for attention and you start creating connection. You realize that admiration isn't about being at the center. It's about being the anchor. It's about making people feel stable, safe, and understood in your presence. So the next time you walk into a conversation, resist the urge to fill the silence with stories about yourself. Pause. Smile, ask, tell me about you. Then listen, really listen. Because when you make people feel valued, you won't need to demand admiration. You'll earn it quietly, naturally, and deeply. That's the irony most people never grasp. You don't become admirable by standing above others. You become admirable by standing with them, by listening without judgment, by making space for their stories, not just yours. Those 4 words, tell me about you, might sound simple, but in a world where everyone's screaming to be heard, those who choose to listen will always be the ones remembered, respected, and admired the most. Admiration doesn't grow from agreement, it grows from understanding. That's the mistake most people make when they try to connect. They think that to be liked, they must always agree. They nod even when they disagree. They hide their real opinions to avoid friction. They confuse politeness with connection. But here's the truth. People don't admire you because you agree with them. They admire you because you understand them. And those are 2 very different things. When you use those 4 simple words, tell me about you, you're not saying, I agree with you. You're saying, I want to understand you. You're creating space for someone to share their thoughts, their beliefs, their experiences, without fear of being judged or corrected. That space, that safety, is where admiration begins. See, understanding someone doesn't mean you have to think like them. It means you're willing to see them. You're saying, your perspective matters, even if it's not mine. And when people feel that from you, when they sense that you're not trying to win, not trying to prove, but trying to understand, they start to respect you on a deeper level. Because respect isn't built on sameness, it's built on acceptance. The problem is most of us listen with one goal, to respond. We're just waiting for the pause so we can jump in and share our side. We listen to defend, not to discover. But when you truly want to understand someone, you listen differently. You listen without the pressure to fix, without the urge to debate. You listen with curiosity. You listen to learn, and that's where connection becomes powerful. Because people can feel when you're genuinely curious about them. They can feel when your silence is patient, not passive. They can feel when your attention is real, not rehearsed. That's the kind of listening that makes people open up. And when they open up, they reveal who they really are, their fears, their beliefs, their pain, their purpose. That's when admiration begins to take root. Let's be honest. Everyone wants to be understood. It's one of the deepest human needs. We crave it more than agreement, more than validation. When someone says, I get it, I see where you're coming from, something inside us relaxes, the defenses drop, the ego quiets, and suddenly trust forms. Now imagine you're the person who gives people that feeling, the one who listens without judging, the one who tries to see the world through their eyes. Do you know what happens? People start to gravitate toward you. They start to admire you not because you're perfect, but because you make them feel safe being themselves. That's rare. That's powerful. Think about the people you admire most in your life. It's probably not the ones who always agreed with you. It's the ones who listened, who understood, who challenged you. But with kindness. They didn't make you feel wrong, they made you feel heard. And because of that, you respected them even when you disagreed. That's what emotional maturity looks like. It's the ability to separate agreement from understanding. You can say, I understand why you feel that way without saying, I feel the same. And that's strength. That's balance. That's leadership. When you use those 4 words, tell me about you, and you actually mean them, you're building a bridge, not a wall. You're saying, let's meet in the middle. You're giving someone a chance to speak their truth. And when you do that consistently, something beautiful happens. You start to attract deeper conversations, deeper people, and deeper respect. Let's talk about why that works psychologically. When someone feels understood, their brain releases oxytocin, the bonding hormone. It's the same chemical that creates trust between close friends or partners. So every time you make someone feel understood, their brain literally associates you with safety, and people admire those who make them feel safe. But remember, understanding doesn't mean surrendering your voice. It doesn't mean you silence your perspective. It means you choose the right moment to share it after you've fully understood theirs. Because when someone feels heard first, they're more open to hearing you. That's influence, not manipulation, but authentic influence built on respect. Now, contrast that with how most people communicate today. Online arguments, defensive replies, constant interruptions. Everyone's speaking, but no one's listening. That's why admiration is rare, because admiration requires calm, and calm requires understanding. So if you want to be the kind of person people look up to, stop trying to win conversations. Start trying to understand people. Replace "you're wrong" with "help me understand how you see it." Replace "that's not true" with "that's interesting. Tell me more about that." It sounds simple, but it changes everything. It softens the tone. It keeps respect alive even in disagreement. Here's something powerful to remember: people don't remember what you said, they remember how you made them feel. And being understood feels like oxygen. It feels like peace in a world that's constantly shouting. So when you give that feeling to others, you instantly stand out. You don't need to be the smartest, funniest, or most confident person in the room. You just need to be the most understanding, because understanding is a form of empathy, and empathy is a silent magnet. It draws people toward you without effort. Now, some people might think, if I keep trying to understand everyone, won't I get taken advantage of? No, because understanding doesn't make you weak. It makes you wise. It gives you clarity. When you truly understand someone, you see their motives, their patterns, their pain. You see who deserves your energy and who doesn't. Understanding protects you from reacting emotionally. It gives you the power to respond with intention instead of impulse. And that's another reason admiration grows from understanding, because calmness is magnetic. When people see that you can listen without losing your balance, when they see that you don't need to fight to be right, they admire your control. They admire your composure. They admire your peace. So remember, "tell me about you" isn't just a question, it's a mindset. It's a way of saying, I choose understanding over ego. Every time you say it, you're practicing humility, you're putting curiosity above pride, and that's what makes people not only admire you, but also trust you. In a world where everyone's trying to speak louder, you become the one who listens deeper. And that difference, that calm confidence, is what sets you apart, because admiration doesn't follow noise, it follows depth, and depth begins with understanding. The real power of those 4 words, "tell me about you," is that they shift your focus. They take you from being the one who wants attention to being the one who gives it, from seeking validation to offering value. And that shift, as simple as it sounds, changes everything about the way people see you, trust you, and ultimately admire you. Because let's face it, most people live in performance mode. They walk into every room trying to prove something, prove they're confident, successful, interesting, worthy. They talk to be seen, not to see. But here's the paradox: the more you chase validation, the less you get it. People can feel when you're trying too hard. They can sense when your words are driven by insecurity instead of authenticity. But when your focus changes, when your goal is not to be noticed, but to notice, that's when you become magnetic. "Tell me about you" is more than a phrase, it's a mindset shift. It's saying, I'm not here to perform, I'm here to connect. It pulls you out of self-centeredness and puts you into presence. It reminds you that admiration isn't built by making others look at you. It's built by making them feel seen. When you focus on others, something amazing happens. Your energy changes. You stop radiating anxiety and start radiating calm. You stop thinking, am I doing enough? And start thinking, what can I give? That mindset instantly makes you more grounded, confident, and likable. Because true confidence doesn't scream, it listens. It doesn't demand space, it creates space. The people who are most admired aren't the ones who dominate the conversation. They're the ones who make everyone around them feel elevated. They walk away from every interaction leaving people better than they found them. And that starts with curiosity, with those 4 words that open a door into someone's world. Think about it like this: every time you say, "tell me about you," you're planting a seed. That seed says, I care about your perspective. I want to understand your story. Over time, that grows into trust. And trust, more than anything else, is the foundation of admiration. Because admiration isn't just about liking someone. It's about respecting them. It's about feeling safe with them. And here's what's beautiful about this: the more you focus on others, the more you grow yourself. Listening teaches you things talking never will. When you listen, you start to notice patterns, how people think, what motivates them, what shuts them down, what lights them up. You begin to understand human nature on a deeper level. That awareness makes you wiser, calmer, and more emotionally intelligent. You start realizing that the world doesn't revolve around your story, it revolves around connection. You start seeing that admiration isn't a spotlight, it's a mirror. The way you make others feel is what they reflect back to you. If you make them feel small, they'll resist you. If you make them feel understood, they'll admire you. There's something profoundly freeing about this shift. When you stop obsessing over how others see you, you start living with ease. You're no longer trying to control perceptions, you're simply showing up as someone who values others. That's confidence, not the loud, performative kind, but the quiet, steady kind that people gravitate toward. And here's the secret most people never figure out: the more you stop needing admiration, the more you naturally earn it. Because people admire those who don't need to be admired. They admire those who are comfortable in their own skin, who don't compete for attention, who don't seek validation like oxygen. When your sense of worth comes from within, you stop chasing approval. You start giving appreciation. That's what "tell me about you" really represents: emotional generosity. It's about giving your presence, your time, and your attention to someone else without expecting anything in return. In a world where everyone's trying to speak louder, attention becomes the rarest gift, and whoever gives it becomes unforgettable. Think about your own experiences. The people who made the biggest impact on you, were they the ones who constantly talked about themselves, or were they the ones who listened, who remembered small details, who made you feel valued? Those are the people you still admire today, even if years have passed. This is the emotional math of life. People may forget what you said, but they will never forget how you made them feel. And the simplest way to make someone feel valued is to focus on them. Ask, listen, learn. Now, there's another layer to this. When you use these 4 words with sincerity, you're not just making others feel good, you're also disarming your own ego. You're reminding yourself that connection matters more than control. That understanding matters more than impressing. That giving matters more than gaining. And once you start living like that, you become different, calmer, wiser, more grounded. Your conversations stop being battles for attention. They become moments of meaning. People start describing you with words like authentic, real, easy to talk to. And that's where admiration begins to build naturally. Because people don't admire those who compete. They admire those who complete. The ones who bring peace instead of pressure, who make space for others to shine instead of fighting for the spotlight. This mindset also makes you more resilient. When you stop relying on admiration to feel good, criticism stops shaking you. You start realizing that not everyone needs to like you, and that's okay. Because your goal is no longer to be liked by everyone, it's to be real with everyone. And real people always attract genuine admiration, not temporary attention. There's a deep peace in that, a strength that doesn't need to shout, a confidence that doesn't need to convince. When you live with that kind of grounded energy, people feel it. They respect it. They admire it, not because you're flawless, but because you're centered. So when you say, "Tell me about you," say it with genuine interest. Let it remind you that every person you meet knows something you don't. Every story holds a lesson. Every conversation is an opportunity not to prove your worth, but to deepen your wisdom. Because at the end of the day, the most admired people in the world are not the ones who take up the most space, but the ones who make others feel like they belong. And that's the magic of those 4 simple words. They don't just change how people see you, they change who you become. They turn you from someone seeking admiration into someone worthy of it. They turn you from someone who wants to be understood into someone who helps others feel understood. That's the shift that builds legacy, not through noise, not through perfection, but through presence. Because when you master the art of giving attention instead of chasing it, admiration stops being something you look for. It becomes something you naturally attract, quietly, powerfully, and effortlessly.